see later. So next step is to calculate a coverage interval for the combined standard uncertainty. So for that, what do we need? The effective degrees of freedom. So what is expanded uncertainty? We have already seen it is product of a combined standard measurement uncertainty and a factor larger than the number 1. So you multiply the combined standard uncertainty by some coverage factor k to get the expanded uncertainty. So expanded uncertainty capital U is equal to k into combined standard uncertainty of y. So the result of a measurement, suppose it is capital Y, then we express the result as y plus or minus capital U. So y is the measurand, the variable measurand. Small y is the average of the measurements, and plus or minus capital U is the two limits define the coverage interval. So capital U is the expanded uncertainty. So next term is coverage interval. The interval containing the set of true quantity values of a measurand with a stated probability based on the information available. So this is just like confidence interval. So in measurement, we call it coverage interval. So it is same as confidence interval. So we have 95% confidence interval, 90% confidence interval, or 99% confidence interval, etc. They are the commonly used confidence levels. So the interval for the required probability. So for 90% confidence, what is the interval? So that is the 90% coverage interval. So all this is based on the information available. So with more information, maybe the computations may change. Okay, so capital Y is the measurand. It lies between the average minus U. This is the lower coverage interval. Y plus capital U, this is the average plus measurement expanded uncertainty. This is the upper coverage interval. So these two limits define the coverage interval. So whenever you give coverage interval, also state the coverage probability P. So what percentage coverage are you talking about? Is it 90%, 95%, 99%? ISO does not recommend any particular value, even though nowadays 95% is most commonly used. But ISO officially does not recommend any particular coverage probability associated with the interval. So realize that intervals are only approximate. So this is all an estimation. So measurement uncertainty is never an exact computation. It is always an estimation. So you don't have to differentiate between 95% and 94% confidence. Practically they are all same. So because many times we take, so for 95%, it should be 1.96 into S by root 10. So many times instead we take 2, then it is actually 95.45%. But that is all just nitpicking. It doesn't matter. Practically all are equivalent is what the standard says. There's no practical difference between 95 and 94%. So what coverage factor should be used? Based on the required confidence P, if measurement is normally distributed, then 68.27% probability is given by a coverage factor of 1. So this, of course, is same as standard uncertainty, combined standard uncertainty. And 90% coverage factor, the 90% coverage interval, the factor is 1.645. 95% coverage, 1.96. 95.45, 2. So these two are practically the same. That's what the previous sentence said. 99%, 2.576 or 2.58. 99.73% confidence, 3 plus or minus 3 UC, to combine standard uncertainty. So we have to choose one. So that's why nowadays commonly we choose 95. And instead of taking multiply 1.960 many times, it simply take plus or minus 2 into sigma of x bar. So if measurand is not normally distributed, so these previous factors are all based on normal distribution. Okay. But even if it is not distributed, still we use normal distribution, justifying it using central limit theorem. Okay, so you have studied in statistics. So if y is a linear combination of random variables, x1, x2, etc., xn, even if the distributions of xi are not normal, the distribution of y will be approximately normal. Okay, so this you can try with simple simulation, generate random numbers uniformly distributed between certain value limits, then simply take the sum. The resulting distribution will be somewhat normal. So of course, this is only if xi are independent and the conditions where this central limit theorem is valid, and the uncertainty of y is much larger than any single component from a non-normally distributed xi. So the uncertainty of y should be much larger compared to any single component. Suppose xi, x1 is a very large and all these are very small, then most of y will depend on only x1. So central limit theorem may not be valid in such a case because it is dominated by a single variable. When a single variable does not dominate, then central limit theorem can be made use of. Okay, so that is for large degrees of freedom. When the degrees of freedom are less, we have to use the t distribution. So use degrees of freedom equal to n minus 1 for a single quantity estimated by the arithmetic mean of n independent observations. So if you have, it's a type A evaluation, so only a single quantity, single variable, and you are estimating it by the arithmetic mean of n independent observations, then degrees of freedom will be n minus 1. Then if UC, that is the combined standard uncertainty, is obtained from 2 or more quantities. So you are having several sources of uncertainty. Then the effective degrees of freedom is given by the Welch-Satterthwaite formula. Nu effective equal to combined standard uncertainty raised to 4 divided by uncertainty of y due to the ith input quantity raised to 4 divided by nu I summed over I equal to 1 to n. What is this? Uncertainty of y due to the ith input quantity. So this is the uncertainty contribution due to the ith source. So each contribution you divide by its degrees of freedom. Each contribution raised to 4 by degrees of freedom, at that is the denominator. So this is if all sources are independent. And effective degrees of freedom should always be rounded down. So this is an important thing. So in EduServer, please be careful. Don't round up. Okay, if you round down, if you don't round down, you may lose marks. So depending, if you are unlucky, so if you get degrees, effective degrees of freedom 6.5, what will be the calculated value is 6.5. What should be taken as the effective degrees of freedom? It should be 6, not 7. So if so, it so unfortunately falls at 0.5, then you have to be careful with this rule. In last year also several students lost marks because of this. In the end semester exam, one question was there which was near 0.5. Then for a type B evaluation, degrees of freedom may be assumed infinity. So for type A evaluation, how many readings are there? Based on that, you can determine for each source what is the degrees of freedom. And all type B evaluations, you assume infinity. Then what will happen to that term here in this equation? When nu I is infinity, this term will become 0. So only those terms where the degrees of freedom is less will remain. Okay, so this is, any question on this? Okay, the formula looks complicated, but actually it is very simple. Example, so now we go back to the cylinder volume problem we had done earlier. So radius of height and height had been measured to be 100 mm and 200 mm. Its standard uncertainty is 0.6 and 0.8 mm respectively. Okay, so what is the volume is the question. So data, so radius contribution, height contribution. Okay, so this is the contribution due to radius, contribution due to height. Then, okay, so this is the combined standard uncertainty. So now what is the degrees of freedom for radius and height? Okay, it is mentioned in the next one. Suppose degrees of freedom for radius is 5 and degrees of freedom for height is 7. So what is the degrees of freedom for volume? The volume depends on both height and radius. Okay, so now it has to be somewhere between 5 and 7. So because the combined effect, this has some contribution, this has some contribution, total will be somewhere between 5 and 7. So determine an 90% coverage interval for the volume. So the Welch-Satterthwaite equation is mu effective equal to combined standard uncertainty raised to 4 divided by uncertainty of volume due to radius raised to 4 divided by degrees of freedom of radius plus uncertainty of volume due to height raised to 4 divided by degrees of freedom of height. So now we have got all these quantities. So uncertainty of radius, uncertainty in volume due to radius is same as sensitivity in radius multiplied by standard uncertainty of radius. Similarly, uncertainty volume due to height is coefficient of sensitivity of volume with respect to height into standard uncertainty of height. So now substituting, combined standard uncertainty was 79476.7, that raised to 4 divided by uncertainty contribution due to radius raised to 4 divided by degrees of freedom of radius 5, uncertainty contribution due to height raised to 4 divided by degrees of freedom of height 7. So now we calculate the effective degrees of freedom of the volume. So this is 6.08. So even though it is less than 6.5, 6.08. Okay, so there's no doubt. 6.08 is rounded off to 6. So if you get 6.7, also it should be rounded off to 6. So we start with degrees of freedom of 5 and 7. So we get degrees of freedom for the resultant as 6. Okay, so now we know effective degrees of freedom. So we can find the T factor, the coverage factor for 90% confidence, 6 degrees of freedom is 1.94. So the standard uncertainty is equal to K into combined standard uncertainty of volume okay, what happened? How 2 came? Sorry, there's some mistake here. This 2 should not be there. Is 1.94 into 79476.7 equal to 15484.8 millimeter cube. So this is the expanded uncertainty. Now lower coverage interval for volume is V volume, the result, minus capital U. So this is the volume minus this is 16 to 9, 0.5. Upper coverage interval is V plus U is 64370.1 millimeter cube. Okay, so that is how you calculate the coverage interval for the measurement result. So measurement result is this 6283185.3. So it is plus or minus 154.184.8. So the two limits are these two. Okay, so that is how we calculate the coverage interval. Okay, so this is another problem. I think we have not done this. So same way, combined standard uncertainty raised to 4, uncertainty of source 1 raised to 4 by degrees of freedom of source 1 plus uncertainty of variable 2 raised to 4 divided by degrees of freedom for variable 2. So when degrees of freedom is greater than 10, adopt k equal to 2 and assume that u equal to 2 into combined standard uncertainty y, defining an interval having a level of confidence of approximately 95%. For more critical applications, 95% instead adopt k equal to 3 and assume u equal to 3 into combined standard uncertainty y, defines an interval having a level of confidence approximately 99%. And so that is the equation when the sources are uncorrelated. What if they are correlated? Okay, then it becomes a bigger formula. So this term is same. This term is what you have already seen. Now one more term comes. So this depends on how much is the correlation between the first and second variables. So each pair of variables, ith variable and jth variable, how much is the correlation? That is rho ij. Okay, so you don't have to learn this. I'm just showing you for information. So it is available. So, but anyway, we will not have any problems based on correlated combined standard uncertainty. So determination of coverage interval will, sources are correlated, such problems will not be there. Okay, so any questions?